So I'm sitting here in a brand new Model Y at my local service center. And the reason is I want to talk about some of the incentives that Tesla is offering right now, because if you combine some of these incentives, it actually might be one of the best times to purchase a Tesla right now. So make sure you stick around to the end. There's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to cover all of that right now and talk about if now is the right time to buy and why you might want to consider the new refresh Model 3. First, I want to talk about the long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3, because this vehicle I almost wrote off after I saw its release. Didn't really understand, other than the fact that they were supplementing battery packs to get tax credit qualification. It isn't until I started seeing how this thing was doing in the real world, and now that we have some test data from real world use, it's very clear that the long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3 is not just a good value, it might be the best Tesla ever. The long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3 was recently released, and it came at a really good price, incredible range estimates, and the performance was not that far off from the all-wheel drive version. Now, the long-range all-wheel drive, of course, does come with the full premium interior, which includes 17 speakers instead of 9, carpeted floor mats, 2 motors, front and back instead of just rear, 0 to 60 in 4.2 versus 4.9, and a price tag difference of $5,000, meaning you get almost the same car, but in rear-wheel drive with less performance for $5,000 less. But that's not the end of the story, and this is where incentives start to add a big piece to this puzzle. All the way through March of this year, Tesla has been offering some pretty substantial discounts on inventory vehicles. Right at the end of Q1, Tesla did away with all of that. All the inventory discounts went away. Tesla no longer was offering those, and instead they restructured the pricing a bit and then started offering incentives on interest rates. And it makes sense at a time when interest rates are high and consumers are very concerned about monthly costs. Buying down those interest rates seem to have a much bigger impact than simply discounting the vehicle, and that's been true to this point. However, we did finally recently start seeing some discounts on inventory, and they're pretty decent. On top of the other incentives available, really stacked together nicely for quite a compelling offer on some of these vehicles. So let's go through the list real quick. Let's talk about how this impacts a Model Y or a Model 3 purchase and why it might be the right time right now to buy. I do want to take a moment though to thank today's video sponsor, Magback. Now, you may have noticed in my Cybertruck I have this nice phone charger on the screen. Well, I also now have it in our Model Y. This is a MagSafe type charger. It's wireless. What's nice is not only does it hold the phone in place, but it charges it at the same time. And because it's right there at the screen, it's actually in a really good spot so that you can see it without being too distracted, but it's within easy grasp, easy reach, and since it's not some sort of an articulated arm, it actually is extremely steady. Not only do they offer it for the driver's side, they also offer this thing for the passenger side. It could not be easier to install. It's literally a piece of adhesive on the back. I've had it in my Cybertruck for 3 months. I just now installed it in the Model Y on both the driver's and passenger side. So whether it's for your Cybertruck, your Model Y, your Model 3, Magback's got you covered with wireless phone chargers that integrate seamlessly into the look of your Tesla. So thanks again to Magback for sponsoring today's video. Elon Musk has been very protective of full self-driving and ensuring that people are paying for full self-driving. They've increased the price a lot over time. They've had to since bring that back down to $8,000, but once you buy that, it stays with the car. It does not stay with you. However, Tesla has now, for I believe the 4th time, offered full self-driving transfer, meaning if you have full self-driving on your vehicle, you can transfer that license to a new purchase, and that vehicle will have that full self-driving for no additional cost. Of course, you will lose full self-driving on the one you pull it from, but this is a really good deal. And this, in my opinion, is how full self-driving should work anyways, because it's so expensive. But this is something that Tesla has been offering more frequently recently, but this is a good deal, especially if you've got full self-driving on an older vehicle and you want some of the newer hardware that's available on car shipping today. In addition, Tesla's continuing their charge towards lower interest rates and incentivizing those interest rates on finance purchases. So for the Model 3 and Model Y, you can get 0% interest rate, on different terms. So for the Model 3, up to 36 months, you get 0%. At 48 months, 0.99. At 60 months, 1.99, 2.99 at 72, and 4.99 at 84. Over on the Model Y, you can get 0% up to 60 months, 0.99 for 72, and 2.99 for 84. So they've really brought that monthly cost down with just the interest rates, but that's not the end of the story. Tesla has introduced an option where if you add full self-driving on the Model X or the Performance Model 3, you can actually save some money there too. For the Model X, you cannot add any options unless you don't mind getting up the $7,500 tax credit. So the base model qualifies for the tax credit, but as soon as you add one option, that goes out the window. However, if you pay $8,000 to add full self-driving, you get one option for free on the Model X. So you could get the 6-seat configuration Model X and still be tax credit eligible because they won't charge you for that $6,500 6-seat configuration as long as you add full self-driving, and it's still qualified for that tax credit. Over on the Model 3 Performance, the only paid upgrade is the paint on the exterior. If you add full self-driving, they'll let you change the paint from stealth gray to any other color for free, meaning you still retain that tax credit on the Model 3 Performance as well. Just this year, Tesla did introduce a new military program for military members and their spouses to get an additional $1,000 off. What's new though, is this now includes the Cybertruck where it previously was excluded. So any new Tesla, you get $1,000 off if you were in the military or your spouse, and you go through verify.id.me, it'll automatically apply these discounts to a new purchase. And then of course the referral program, the update for now is $500 off on Model 3 and Y purchases, $1,000 off on Model X and Model S purchases. So that's up to $1,500, $2,000 on S and X that you can get if you were military and you use somebody's referral code. Use somebody's referral code. Doesn't have to be mine. Use somebody's though. That's free money just sitting there. Tesla did also just recently introduce free premium connectivity for 1 year if you purchase an in-inventory vehicle. And that's about $99 to prepay for a full year, or $9.99 a month if you do it monthly. So a little bit of money there, not bad. And then of course, the 30-day full self-driving trial that comes with all new purchases. And then finally, we've had lease rate deals from Tesla for a while now, and they're mostly the same except for this new long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3, where the rear-wheel drive or the standard range that did not qualify for tax credits, the lease on that was $299. Now you can get the long-range rear-wheel drive for that $299. So they rolled that over to this bigger, better, faster, everything better Model 3 in the long-range rear-wheel drive. So it's a really good lease deal, $299 a month. And in some states, if you add additional incentives, this thing is dirt cheap. That is a lot of car. It's truly the benchmark of what is available in the market right now, which again is why I'm so excited to see the refresh Model Y come out. That is an incredible deal. $299 a month for the long-range rear-wheel drive, $349 a month for the long-range all-wheel drive, and $599 a month for the Performance. Over on the Model Y, $349 for the long-range rear-wheel drive, $399 for the long-range all-wheel drive, and $549 for the Performance. So again, these are incentivized lease deals. They're pretty decent deals, especially if you can find a long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3. Now, looking at this, this is how it stacks out in my area on existing inventory, because once you start bundling these things together with some of the inventory discounts, some of these vehicles get pretty dang cheap. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Starting over on the Model Y, I did find this Model Y in inventory in my area, and this is a long-range rear-wheel drive base model, $44,990. $3,600 inventory discount. If you add the $500 referral, $1,000 military, and the $7,500 tax credit, you're talking $32,390. Before taxes and fees, about 32 grand. That is so cheap. This is a ton of car for that kind of money. You're talking rear wheel drive, still get 250 kilowatt charging, get this big spacious interior. Of course, the refresh is on the way, but we'll talk more about that here in a moment. Over on the Model 3, this is where things get a little bit different. You see, the rear-wheel drive Model 3, I can't even find one in my area because there's only one in transportation and it's not here yet. They are so popular. It is such a good car. You can't find these things in inventory, and that really is the case. These are a fantastic deal. So because of that, there's no inventory discounts on long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3s, unfortunately. but there are some on the all-wheel drive. We'll get back to that in just a moment. In my area, the only long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3 looks like this. It does have white interior, so there's an extra $1,000 there, but we're talking $43,490 minus the $500 referral credit, minus the $1,000 military, minus the $7,500 tax credit. We're talking $34,490, which is just under $35,000 for this. Now you'll notice that is more expensive than the Model Y, and that's the power of some of these inventory discounts. But here's where things are really interesting, because the all-wheel drive that you can get in inventory is actually discounted, and in this case, $3,800 discounted. Now this one is a true base. It has the black interior, so there's another $1,000 there. $43,690 minus $500 referral, minus $1,000 military, minus $7,500 tax credit, $34,690, or $200 more than the long-range rear-wheel drive in inventory in my area. Add another $1,000 for the interior, so about $1,200 difference for a $5,000 more car. What does that get you? Well, that gets you 4.2 0 to 60 versus 4.9, 341 versus 363 miles of range, or 22 less miles, 17 speaker sound system versus 9, and of course you get floor mats with the long-range all-wheel drive, and you do not get that with the long-range rear-wheel drive. That's it. That's the only difference. Now, there's a lot of performance that you get for that, but the difference in that $5,000, that's a big chunk of money, and there's not a huge difference in both cars, making the long-range rear-wheel drive a huge value, but also because of the discounts, making the all-wheel drive a huge value. You get the same heated and cooled seats on both models, you get both screens, all the same basic features that you're gonna see, feel, and touch are all gonna be the same. You're just gonna have better performance, all-wheel drive instead of rear-wheel drive, and pretty similar in range. And we've seen this confirmed in real world testing, where it's very similar in its efficiency on the highway, even with dual motor versus the single motor in the rear. So it begs the question, is now the right time to buy? Well, I think it depends. For the Model Y, let's start there, because just around the corner is the refresh Model Y, and I cannot wait for that thing to come out. However, the existing Model Y was the best selling car in the world, and it's no surprise why. It's a great car. It's a great size car, fits a huge swath of the public, and it's the right size for the market. Has great range, charges fast, it's comfortable, has a lot of the same features, full self-driving, all these wonderful things, and that is all good and great. However, as we come to the end of this year and the imminent start of the refresh Model Y, that's when we're probably going to see the best deals on Model Y. However, that doesn't mean there's a guarantee we'll have a discounted interest rate. And that's really something to think strong about, because interest rates, even with the reduction we had recently, are still high. And those monthly costs can increase with some substantial interest rate. Over on the Model 3, it's a little bit different. So for the all-wheel drive, $3,800, we've seen about $5,000 when they were doing inventory discounts in the past. So we're really not that far off, but we do have today interest rates reduced, and we have full self-driving transfer, which is something to really think about. The long-range all-wheel drive Model 3 is honestly a really good deal if you can find one in inventory, which there's a bunch of them. The long-range rear-wheel drive, there's no special deal other than the interest rate program that they have now, which is less than it was last quarter. So you can see a trend here, and you can't find them in inventory. So it's going to be a while before we see any major incentives on the Model 3 for the long-range rear-wheel drive. So if you find one in inventory, it might be a good idea to really think about it, especially if you have full self-driving. Take advantage while Tesla is offering these transfers of full self-driving, so you don't have to pay that $8,000 on the new vehicle too. You don't even have to sell your car. You can just remove full self-driving from your car and apply it to the new vehicle. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now. It is actually a pretty good time to consider purchasing a new Tesla, especially the long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3. The Model Y has some decent deals, really hard in inventory, because there's some discounts if you add more options that you're actually saving quite a bit more. So keep an eye on that. If there's something specific you're looking for color or wheels, a lot of times they'll have the wheels on there and discount almost the entire $2,000 for the wheel package. Something to really think about, look hard for. Let me know in the comments, are you waiting for refresh Model Y? Have you found a long-range rear-wheel drive? I'm curious to know how many of you were able to get your hands on them, because I've heard from so many of you already and how good of a car it has been for you. So I thank you for joining us today, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.